Welcome to Stick at Night. I'm Hudson County Commissioner Anthony L. Romano, representing the cities of Jersey City and Hoboken. And today with us is, for me, it's a very exciting moment. As a member of the law enforcement profession, it is such a distinguished honor to have a person of your caliber here. We have with us Laurie Doran, the New Jersey Director of the Office of Homeland Security. And Laurie, I cannot tell you how happy we are to have you here. So many things are happening in this country, this state, this county, and what better person to lead us in the direction of making us feel secure than you.
Oh, thank you very much. I really appreciate it. I'm glad to have the opportunity to be here and speak with you.
Tell us about you, Laura. How did you wind up in you from Jersey? Or?
I am not from Jersey. I'm an Army brat. My dad was career Army, so I actually was born in Kentucky. We moved around a lot, and then I finished high school, went to college in Massachusetts. So from graduate school, that's when I ended up joining the agency back in 1985.
Yes, for those of you who don't know, our illustrious director is a former member of a very important part of the United States government, the Central Intelligence Agency. What you can do, give us a little what you can talk about with that.
Mm-hmm. I worked for Central CIA for 32 years. I worked as an operations officer, which basically means that I recruited spies for a living. And I lived all over the world doing just that.
Must have been very exciting.
It was a very good career. It was very interesting. You get to meet a lot of different people, work on a lot of different things, and know that you're helping your country at the same time.
And your husband's a former.
And my husband's a retired agency employee as well.
Wow, that's really awesome.
Yeah, so he did the same thing.
Now you guys live in Jersey?
Yeah, he's from New Jersey, which is how I ended up living here in New Jersey.
Okay, Director, I understand you're the first female director to lead the New Jersey Office of Homeland Security. Tell us, how did you wind up in Homeland Security?
Actually, it's a funny story. I retired from the agency at the end of 2017, and then my predecessor contacted me. We have friends in common. I did not know the previous director before that, and we met and had a typical New Jersey interview meeting at a diner. And so then he asked me if I would come on board as the division director for intelligence and operations, which is our law enforcement arm and our analytical arm of our office. And so I said yes. And so for 3 years, I worked as division director for intelligence and operations. And then when the previous director decided to go to the private sector, he approached me with about a week and a half's notice. The governor wanted to have me as an acting director. And so I was very honored and be asked by the governor to serve in that capacity. And then this year on Valentine's Day, I was officially appointed as the official director.
Well, we're lucky in New Jersey to have you.
Oh, thank you.
And also from my interactions with you, you could see that you're very hands-on, and your style of leadership, how would you describe it?
I'm very much into team building. I try not to be a micromanager. My employees might say otherwise, but I think most of them would say that I've tried to lead by example. I recognize that what we do is an art, not a science, most of the time. So there's always different ideas on how certain problems can be approached and accomplished. And I try to have everyone get involved and collaborate. And we also do a lot with our external partners in the law enforcement community, federal, state, local, county. I am pleased to be the first female director. I'm hoping that perhaps that will serve as an inspiration perhaps to some other young girls and women, and also even some men and boys, if they want to come work in intelligence or work in law enforcement.
Well, yeah, that's excellent to be a role model. We'll have to consider nominating you for one of the Hudson County Women of the Year next year.
Unfortunately, I've got to move to Hudson County, but yeah.
Well, in your case, it should be an exception because part of you belongs to all of the state.
Agreed.
You mentioned some about the other agencies that you work with. I'm always been attached to New Jersey State Police. I think they do a phenomenal job. I know you have a detail with you with a shining example of what a trooper is in Kevin. And then you also have the federal Homeland Security. So tell us about that interoperability.
This is where our agency, we have the benefit of working with a variety of different partners. We have a very, very good and solid relationship with the state police, but we also work with county, state, and local, as I was mentioning, law enforcement partners as well. On the federal side, we work with FBI, we work with the big Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Marshals, a variety of different colleagues. With anything related to Homeland Security, we would be in touch with them. And we also, also work with private sector and other public sector entities that you normally wouldn't think of as law enforcement, schools and hospitals and things like that, just on a variety of different fronts. So we have a very large external partnership.
And it must be a benefit to still have your connections with the agency.
Yes.
Because, I learned since 9/11, where years ago the image was always the federal agencies and the state agencies and local never worked well together. And I found that to be so untrue after 9/11 being assigned to counterterrorism. Mm-hmm. And it was just a wonderful experience to make these connections and network together. And everybody checked the egos at the door.
Agreed.
And did what had to be done to accomplish the mission. And which, now that we can get into that, the mission. Tell us about the mission.
Well, first, let me just go back and highlight a bit. When I came on board to the agency, I came on during the Cold War. Back when Russia was still the former Soviet Union, a lot of what I worked on was related to things to that. I've lived through the Berlin Wall and worked on things related to the Berlin Wall coming down. During 9/11, I also was involved in that. I was overseas at that point. I did work in one of the war zones shortly after 9/11 as a result of that. And you're right. I would say probably prior to 9/11, at least I can speak on the federal level, was a lot more siloed than what it is now. If there's one good thing that has come out of 9/11, and there's not very much of that, it would just basically see in terms of talking about partnership and collaboration and letting those silos go down, having us exchange information. And I would say nowadays, on the federal side and on state side as well, we all realize we can't all do it alone. So working together to help resolve or mitigate problems, that's the best way to do it. And also the public helping us in that.
Yeah, well, again, the organization has come a long way, incident command system and other things to try to streamline if there's an incident. Give us, the viewers at home, a breakdown of an operation if there's a terrorist incident. Talk about the mission and the day-to-day responsibilities.
Sure. Well, first, let me just give you a 2-second plug on the rest of my agency, because it's all kind of tied together. If you look on our website, there's a lot of information with regard to how we're set up. We focus on counterterrorism, we focus on cybersecurity, and we focus on preparedness. And when I mean preparedness, it's also with they're all related to dealing with problems that could be terrorist attack, could be a natural disaster, but basically just to protect the homeland in general. So when we're talking about counterterrorism, most people automatically think it's all a law enforcement. That's just law enforcement or intelligence. There's also other pieces that go along with that. For example, on the preparedness side, one of the things they focus on is on training and exercise, like helping people to be prepared in the event of something bad happening. We're
going to come back after a break and continue that discussion and how things came in full circle with Russia, right where we are again. I'm your Commissioner, Anthony Romano. We'll be right back with this wonderful, important guest that we have with us today.
It's my job to pay attention to the game, and I take my job seriously.
While I'm busy watching the game, I need your help keeping an eye on the stands.
If you see something that doesn't look quite right, tell a law enforcement official.
We all play an important role in protecting our communities, and you can help.
If you see something suspicious, say something to local authorities.
Hudson TMA reminds you that whenever you are out on your bike, there are several things you must remember to stay safe.
That means when you ride in the street, ride in a straight line with traffic on the right side of the road. Riding against traffic is dangerous. It puts you where the driver of a car isn't expecting you.
Meaning he might turn in front of you, or worse, into you.
And you know what that means.
Ouch.
And if you're riding with friends, always ride single file. And here's something else to remember. Always obey traffic lights and signs, and pay attention to lane markings.
When you see one of these, stop. When you see one of these, yield. Traffic might be coming from one side or the other.
Now, since your bike doesn't come with turn signals,
Use your hands.
but always check for traffic before you turn. Do this to turn left, this to turn right. Also, some states allow you to do this to turn right, and do this to stop.
Welcome back to Stick at Night. Let's continue this very interesting discussion with our director of the New Jersey Office of Homeland Security, Laurie Doran. Laurie, continue where you were.
I guess let's go back and recap what we were just talking about.
We were talking about your great staff. And
Yeah.
Maria Prado is your chief of
Yes, she is
staff.
the director of communications. Who
She's
she is here with us today. She helped coordinate all this with you, and I appreciate her help on that and yours.
She's an Air Force veteran, too.
She is very much an Air Force veteran. We do have several veterans who work in our agency, as well as a lot of retired law enforcement and also active law enforcement in different roles that aren't necessarily just in traditional law enforcement roles. So going back a little bit about counterterrorism, I mean, it's there's a variety of different things. I mean, most people think mostly of the law enforcement element of that. But what we also focus on is, again, training people that if something bad happens, whether it's a mass shooting, which unfortunately we have to bring up, a terrorist attack, natural disaster, how to be prepared on how you're going to perhaps handle yourself and also protect yourself, but also even the physical security aspect of that. So we do a lot of things in terms of helping private and public sector organizations in being prepared, if the worst case scenario happens, that you've done as much as you can to try and protect your entity, also in the cybersecurity realm, and also just for people in general, in whatever location they're in, schools, government buildings, private sector buildings, and just the individual in their individual houses.
And now, do you have a certain person assigned to each county?
Yes.
Or how does it work?
Yeah, what we do on the Intelligence and Operations Division, we have a cadre of detectives who are have law enforcement authority to arrest. A lot of them do investigations with their county, state, and local partners. We also have a cadre of them who work directly with the FBI, and I'm sure you're aware of the Joint Terrorism Task Force.
Sure, I was on.
So a vast majority of our detectives are associated with that, especially in FBI Newark. Some are associated with the ones in FBI Philadelphia, and they work on terrorism cases, international terrorism, domestic terrorism. And with that, they do law enforcement investigations. And then we also have a cadre of detectives who work out of our office in Hamilton, who work on some of the cases that the FBI has chosen not to work on for a variety of reasons. And that goes into talking about our New Jersey Suspicious Activity Reporting System, which we can go into. Yeah.
Well, it was interesting. I used to enjoy going to the biweekly meetings that we had at the FBI. Involving our counterterrorism briefings, but then there was so many special agents in charge switching and retiring that it was discontinued now just before COVID.
Okay.
So hopefully that'll get reinstituted also.
Well, I know that they just had a retirement of the special agent in charge, so we'll wait to see who they pick.
Well, it's interesting too. I appreciate the briefings that you send. Enjoy reading and keeping up on it. They're doing a wonderful job. You work with The Rock, right?
Yes, we do.
Yeah.
We have a very good relationship along with a lot of federal, state, and local partners with the Rock, the regional office for Intelligence Center. So it's based in West Trenton. Our cybersecurity element, actually, the majority of it sits there. It's just more strictly from a space point of view rather than, collaborating point of view. But yeah, The Rock is a very important partner for us. Yeah.
Amazing. Whoever that thought process came to bring that about. Again, everybody's checked at the door. It's a team effort.
Exactly. Totally.
And the troopers do a great job.
No, and that is they're the ones who are responsible for the building and do some of the major operational, logistics of running it. But our state only has one. It's called a fusion center. We only have one in New Jersey. Other states have more than one. Like, for example, California has 6 of these fusion centers, which is by virtue of their geography and some of the. But no, they're a great partner, and everybody who's in there they're great partners.
How often does your team work with the public, and does your organization provide any resources for the residents who are tuning in, listening?
Yeah, we try to work with the public as much as we can. We are very active in the interfaith community here in New Jersey. We run something called the Interfaith Advisory Council.
July 7th, I think there's something.
Yes, there is. We're having our second quarterly in-person haven't had one in a long time, in-person meeting. Which is basically the Interfaith Advisory Council is coordinated by OHSP, but we have approximately 4,000 members from all over the state and from all different faiths. And while not all 4,000 show up at one time, it's a forum where we can share information of general interest to all the different parts of the faith community. If there's some problems or issues, this gives people from different faith communities an opportunity to network and to talk amongst themselves, to try and sort things out. It's also a mechanism that if there's some things that are going on that are of concern to specific communities, faith communities, they can talk to us about that. And we can try and work together as a team to try and resolve, or at least give some ideas of what they can do to help each other. We also have 2 other initiatives. Would be the New Jersey Shield program, which that one is relatively new for us. It's been approximately a year, but it's part of a larger network that's here in the U.S. and also in a couple places overseas.
New York has it.
Yes, it
I
does.
belong to the New York. Again, since COVID, there hasn't been. Usually we meet twice a year. Once is around December before the holidays, but that seems to has gone by the wayside right now.
I think that's going to probably be coming back, though. I know. So it's as again, because you're aware of it. It's an information sharing resource, and it's say for example in Miami. I mean, they have a lot of information on financial issues. So the Miami Shield program can share that information with New Jersey or New York or whomever, and it goes back and forth. It helps to keep the public sector and the private sector involved and getting to know what's going on. So again, we just celebrated in April our 1st anniversary of New Jersey Shield. So we're very proud of that. And we're going to, again, we're always looking for tips. If there's things that people want to have us focus on, happy to look at that. We also have within our preparedness division, hometown security initiatives, which are the same thing, going out to local communities and helping them with different problems related to, helping them deal with issues like mass gatherings, if there's some issues there, if there's some issues on extremism, again, provide them some funding and also some guidance and training to help deal with problems within their own communities.
Well, you provide funding too.
On certain things, we have New Jersey is a little different than some other states, but in New Jersey, all federal and state Homeland Security grant money, the vast majority goes through our office. We're the ones who are responsible for coordinating that and arranging for the people to apply for the money. And then we work with the federal government on the federal money. And then on the state, we work on that ourselves in terms of the awarding and just the paperwork, the logistics process of that.
Wow, I didn't realize so many things that your agency
does. No, we do not lack for things to do. We are less than 200 people, but we have our hands into a lot of different things. And then finally, on the cyber side, which is a very important part, and as we've talked, we'll probably talk about, that's an increasingly important part of what we work on in terms of Homeland Security issues. Is our New Jersey KIC is the problem. I'm just trying to get my words to get straight here. New Jersey Cybersecurity and Coordination Integration Center. I did not make up that acronym, but it's NJKIC. They are out there. They have a membership program which is free, in that they will provide information and resources to help the average citizen if they have issues with cybersecurity issues, but we also have it focused more to private and public sector organizations.
When we come back, we'll continue our show with Director Doran.
We have to be able to police ourselves because we don't want anybody to tarnish our badge.
When internal affairs complaints are not handled properly, the public may believe that most officers commit crimes, when in fact that's not true. Most officers are professional. Most officers do not commit crimes.
If complaints aren't taken properly and the community that we serve doesn't have a trust in the police department, I mean, there has to be legitimacy. If the community doesn't trust the police, how could we effectively serve them? And by having a really comprehensive internal affairs unit that handles the complaints properly and people have trust in the system, it enables us to do our entire job as a police department much better.
We need the community as much as they need us. So that citizen that has lost trust in the community could be a very important witness for us tomorrow.
Hudson TMA reminds you that before you ride, you should perform the ABC Quick Check. Here's how to do it.
You don't want your bike to fail you, so get in the habit of doing the ABC Quick Check before you ride. A is for air. Check that your tires are properly inflated. They should be pumped up to the inflation rating printed on the tire. Many bicycle pumps come with a pressure gauge, so you can make sure they're properly inflated. Low-pressure tires can easily puncture. B is for brakes. Check that your brakes are working. Your brake lever shouldn't come closer than a thumb's width to the handlebar. Your wheels should spin freely when the brakes are off. C is for the cranks, chain, and cassette. Grab both crank arms like this and wiggle them to make sure they aren't loose. Spin the pedals and make sure the chain runs smoothly through the gears. Quick means making sure your wheels are on tight if you have quick release wheels. The wheels should be snug in the dropouts and the quick release lever fastened tight.
Not everyone celebrates the birth of a baby. You have options. Don't panic. New Jersey has safe havens for unwanted infants. Leave the baby with staff at any hospital, ER, police or fire station, or rescue squad. Call the number on your screen for safe haven locations or go to www.njsafehaven.org. No shame, no blame, no names. Safe Haven.
Welcome back. Let's continue with Director Doran. We're going into cybersecurity.
Sure.
It's a problem, obviously.
Very much so.
And what's the biggest cyber threat to our state? And how do people prepare for that, for these threats?
Okay. I'm going to try and divide it up into two different sections here. Basically, if people have an opportunity to go on our website and look at our 2022 terrorism threat assessment, we put as the top 3 threats for New Jersey. One would be homegrown violent extremists. One would be white racially motivated extremists. And then the one that's most recent this year that we added is cybersecurity. With that, as people know, I mean, the technology, information technology has evolved. And so it's a lot more sophisticated than it used to be. And also with the geopolitical situation, you know, around the world and the pandemic, add that along into it. The internet is much more of, while there's a lot of information there, there's also a lot more capability for people to do bad things. As many people know, I mean, the internet has no borders. So what somebody can be sitting in Eastern Europe and still trying to do something here to an individual or an organization here in New Jersey. So the NJ-KIC, our cybersecurity element, is responsible for protecting the state of New Jersey, the executive branch of New Jersey. But then in that, they also work on trying to provide information and outreach to individuals as well as public and private sector companies. And so one of the things that we focus on is trying to provide best practices for individuals as well as for organizations to help protect themselves. We call it cyber hygiene.
Right. Well, you heard about obviously the dark web.
Yes.
Where they're holding banks hostages.
Yes. And the ransomware.
The ransomware.
Mm-hmm.
We had that one of the last briefings, and then on the other side you have Russia and China.
Yep.
Which are doing their thing.
Yep.
So it seems to be we're getting hit all, you know, especially the banking world, the financial world. This is the weakness of the system.
No, in the last year, there have been approximately, and this isn't just in New Jersey, this is nationwide, there's been approximately 3,100 ransomware attacks that have taken place nationwide.
Wow.
I wish I could say that some of them weren't in New Jersey, but some of them are. Ransomware is probably the biggest problem right now. Again, more on an organizational level, not as much on an individual level, though it does happen. And so we are trying to equip people with the right tools, whether that's just, you know, working on helping to prevent it themselves, because approximately 85% of the cybersecurity incidents that happen are due to things that human error, or not updating your software, or not using multi-factor authentication, other ways to help protect yourself, because the cybersecurity criminals are very sophisticated, both in, and so the best you can do is to be the best offense is a good defense.
Yeah, I know New York, the OCC is the Russian gangs and what they're doing and trying to do it. So it's a hot topic, cybersecurity. Everybody's afraid that they're going to get hacked, whether it be on their personal laptop or phones or whatever. It's just it's actually very scary. I know a senior citizen that was completely fleeced.
Yeah, no, and in those instances, because those are more an individual, more like consumer affairs types of thing, I would recommend, I mean, we also obviously can help,
right.
But the Attorney General's office, the Department of Consumer Affairs, can help the individuals in terms of trying to untangle their particular problem on an individual level, say if there's some kind of a scam. On the ransomware and things like that, that would fall more under our side of the house.
Right, obviously a large incident. In the world of current events, there's been a rash of school violence or violence in general with mass shooting making its way. It always seems to be on the news. Do you have any advice for the public on how to prepare for these crisis situations? And why do you think they're happening so much?
I guess I'll start with what people can do to help prepare for themselves. One, and this kind of goes with the whole theme that we have on throughout our organization, and a lot of people have already heard this, the whole See Something, Say Something program. If people notice something or see something online, if it strikes you as unusual or weird, please say something. If, it doesn't necessarily even if you think it's a little tidbit and you're not sure, tell a law enforcement person. If you're in school, tell your teacher, tell your parents. There are people who, can look at it from a bigger picture perspective, but also they're the experts and they're not expecting you to be that. So if there's information that, again, if something strikes you as weird, it's probably weird. And so you should tell someone. So that, the public is one of the best ways that we can protect ourselves, is that if especially with some of the unfortunate, school shootings that we've seen recently, there seem to be some signs of some of the people who did some of these shootings, that there were some signs ahead of time that were not noticed or not reported. So that's where I would ask people to please, if you see something odd, please tell someone. Secondly, the mantra would be, if you are involved in some kind of a situation like that, which I pray to God no one ever is, the whole run, hide, fight situation would be what I would go with. Basically, if you can, at that type of a situation, run away as fast as you possibly can. If you can't, for some whatever reason, get out of that environment, hide as best as you can. And three, and this is where I do not expect someone to do this who's not a trained professional, but if you're in an extreme situation and you have no other option, then you try to fight. But we basically say, please just try and get out of there as fast as you possibly can.
It's such a sad epidemic, it seems, to what's going on.
No, it is.
And children getting access to weapons and just not having any respect for life.
No, it's, and this is just kind of in general, I mean, talking about Homeland Security issues in general, and also where school shootings would fall into part of that, is the pandemic changed a lot of things. Again, I'm no expert on the pandemic, but I think just some of the norms that we had before, prior to that time. I mean, school shootings unfortunately have happened previously, but just the circumstances surrounding the pandemic of a lot of people spending a lot more time by themselves, having a chance to, be lonely, have trauma in their life. It helped to perhaps accelerate some of those problems. And so, as we come out of that stage that we all have gone through, we, together with our partners, law enforcement, nonprofit organizations, schools, private sector organizations, we're trying to do the best we can to try and prevent these type of things from happening, and also provide people who need some resources, mental health resources, or schools who, if they need resources to help protect themselves better. We're trying to do our best to try and eliminate it. We're never going to be able to eliminate it 100%, but we're going to try and see if we can bring that number down to as close to zero as possible.
Well, Director, I mean, we can go on and, hopefully we can get you back. I really appreciate the fact that you traveled all the way up from South Jersey to come and do this. I think it's important. You're a very valuable resource.
Thank you.
And you hit a lot of different boxes. Thank you for your service, what you did with the agency. Thank you for being a role model for many young women, to see what a person that gets, not because she's a woman, but because she's competent enough to do the job. And we've seen that here today. So again, Director Doran, thank you. Commissioner Romano for Stick at Night. Take care.